JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. October 9th, 2024, 3:13 on this fine Wednesday afternoon. Talk really quick about the markets, Fed minutes, CPI data tomorrow, and go from there. But take a look at S&P hitting new intraday all-time highs. Pretty remarkable in the face of all these headwinds, but it's always been like that. It's climbing the wall of worry. So the S&P is up about 0.5%. Unfortunately, the small caps are not following suit, and the VIX remains elevated. And I posted a chart. I think it was Howard Lindzen from StockTwits posted about the uh, amount of times that the S&P or the markets were at all-time highs and the VIX was over 20. And it seems like there's a lot of instances. I don't know, it was over 100, I guess it was. And you take a look here, the VIX is only down 2.5%, and the market's up 0.5% all-time highs. It's over 20. So I probably, I wish I shouldn't say wish, because I think it's important to look at all different things going on, yields, the VIX, US dollar, all those different little macro things going on. But to see the VIX over 20, it's like hard for me to ignore, right? So usually it means there's something cooking under the hood. There's something going on, right? Sometimes you gotta peel back that onion, and there's something, but maybe not. Maybe not. We do get CPI data tomorrow, so certainly a catalyst. Fed minutes this afternoon. I mean, to me, it's like a tone of, hey, we should have done a jumbo rate cut. We should have done a quarter rate cut and kind of allow allow things to happen. I mean, it was good for markets, and we'll see what happens with CPI tomorrow, and then the next Fed meeting at the start of November. I would assume it's gonna be a quarter rate cut. It's almost like when they did the half cut for the first time, it's like they almost like overreacted. But the thing is, they didn't have a meeting for 6 weeks, and they had to account for some data. If there was two meetings or one in between, it would have been a quarter rate probably. So I guess you take that with a grain of salt. But take a look at the SPY blue sky breakout now over that 575 handle, hit 577. So I would say 575 right now might be some support if we do find some weakness. And then CPI's all eyes tomorrow. And who knows? I'm I'm still cautious, but blue skies typically beget blue skies. So now there's sellers have been broken through, right? So there's less sellers as you move higher unless people start coming back to sell. So nice little move here. Also, the upper Bollinger Band's 579.41. So is that right? 578.41, excuse me. So there could be another area if we do find some strength over the next day or two. And again, the VIX down 2.99%. I should stop talking about it. And then last but not least, the small caps. Unfortunately, IW, I'm barely up 0.1% today, despite the market rally. Same with yesterday. Similar, barely to the green, despite the nearly 1% move in the S&P yesterday. So one of these days, right? One of these days, Alice to the moon. I used to always quote the Honeymooners, one of a classic. All right, so, and also the biotechs. And, a lot, Super Micro, MSTR, I think those make a lot of those two names have a large weighting in small cap index. So when those names are weak, typically it weighs more than your average stock, right? But there's a lot of the small cap names are in the bio space. So when those struggle, and biotech's been struggling, the small caps just can't get footing. So one of these days, it seems like this year has been, I forget where I saw the data, but it's like one of the weakest in regards to M&A in terms of quantity of M&A this year. So maybe it'll heat up into the end of the year, rates going down. Obviously, being in an easy money environment over the last couple of years, a lot easier to do acquisitions. But now that, rates went up, money costs more, right? When you use M&As and you use leverage, it costs more money to do it. All right, so that's overall market. Again, CPI tomorrow. Hopefully it's in line, maybe a little cooler than expected. Don't want to see a hotter number, right? Because then then people are going to start saying they overreacted. It's funny, back in August and September, they're talking that the Fed didn't react soon enough. When we had that big sell-off at the start of August, we had that jobs report that caused the big sell-off over the week into Monday. People say, oh, we should do emergency rate cut. And now if we get hotter than expected inflation, folks are going to say, wow, they should have done the jumbo rate cut. So it's just all these knee-jerk reactions. Sometimes best to just tune out the noise. All right, so just one position I'll talk really quick. WW. I did my little 5-minute rant this morning on the rant. Not going to talk too much about it. I was actually interested in. I was possibly going to add some April strikes here if it had some continuation. I just have to do more research on it. I quite honestly, once the CEO of WW got let go or what have you, I kind of just stopped looking at it. but now I'm not saying it's getting more interesting, but maybe this could be one of those names. Again, $800 million in revenue, it's a $90 million market cap. Actually, it's more now. So $1.50 times 70 million shares. I guess was that uh, 110 million? I 7 times. Anyway, my brain's not functioning properly right now. But I did lock some of my January 25s in for over 100%. I mean, came back to life. It's almost like, does it go to 5 before the end of the year? It certainly could, but considering I was those were pretty much done, I had to lock some in. And then I might, if I, because I got a lot of them, they were inexpensive, and I averaged down. So typically I don't average down on positions. WW is one of the few positions I actually averaged down on over. I can count on one hand over the last year, 2 year, maybe even 3 years. I've averaged down a position. Uh, Maybe twice this year. I think I'm trying to remember the other one I did it on. Uh, but I might look to, depending on what it does tomorrow, if it continues to rally, I'll lock more of the Januaries in, and then I might go out to April or even January 26th and just get some spec lottos and then just be done with it. And then hopefully there's some FOMO squeeze. I'll sit on my hands and hopefully make lots of money. So that's the play on WW. I talked about this morning. I mean, there's ways that, I spun it back when it was much higher, that I could see it being a name that could be the gatekeeper for health, right? And right now they're called WeightWatchers, but they're WW International, right? I think it is, but they could, especially with what it's been found that GLP-1 can solve cardiovascular events, right? 20% reduction, sleep apnea, diabetes, obviously, weight loss. Then you start looking at all these different avenues, and now you need one go-to place, not only to get your solution, the clinical side, but also to get the coaching and the support and the insurance and all those things. So to find someone who's going to find a provider that can help get you. So that was kind of like the bull case back a long time ago, not long, but a year ago. And it's still relevant. Just there's a lot more competitors in the space, but you still have this brand name. And I mean, when it's a $110 million company, what's the value of that brand? I think the brand just the name of the brand is valuable enough. I mean, what was Bed Bath and Beyond was purchased for $10 million just a namesake, I think. Rants for other days, but again, I have to do more. I have to wrap my head around everything, do more research on this compound solution that may be gone in 6 months anyway, and go from there. All right, so that's that. AMD, disappointing. Looked like it was going to rally. It was over 174 in the pre-market. Opens 174.05, and then there was a tumble like a little bit after the open, all the way down to 168, 69 and change. It's been bouncing around. Like I said, I locked some of the calls in yesterday just to cover more costs, and I'll just hold the rest. The event tomorrow is either going to be one of those where it's a sell the news event and it's going to go back into the 160s and below, or it could be one of those where there's some surprises or even some more optimism in the stock rallies 180, 185, 190 in the coming days. So I'll continue to hold those strikes for that outcome, just because I think there's a high probability. It's a name that's kind of been, I wouldn't say left for dead. It's rallied back from those anyway, but I think it's one of those names that could kind of I'm not saying take over NVIDIA, but have a run into the 200s and beyond if it's able to show some promise. So that's AMD. Roku, disappointing. I forget it was in the chat room, but rally closes green on Monday despite the market selling off. Sneaky rally yesterday, up nearly 3%, and then today with the market rallying, what does Roku do? It's down nearly 2%. Still going to hold my calls in next week. The funny thing is when the stock was green in the morning, the calls were in the red, which is annoying when premium comes out of your calls despite the stock being up. It's not fun. Still like this one for over $80. Got to get over there soon. I was hoping today, maybe if we have a strong, at least a decent inline CPI data tomorrow, a market can find footing or at least rally or find footing. And I think that'll bode well for Roku. And I think once it breaks 80, it's off to the races. Nice little consolidation. It is at its upper Bollinger Band, so it's gonna need some oomph behind it, right? It's gonna have to get some buyers. Maybe a kick tomorrow. Maybe there be some analyst upgrade or something like that. MasterCard and Visa. So when I ended those positions, when I put a hedge, a lot of times, sometimes when I get a chance, I'll close a position out. I'll salvage a position, right? And typically I don't do it so much on weeklies because those tend to be tough. And one day I guess I can do a quick webinar on stops and how I trade. And I think I've talked about this before in regards to options, but managing risk and things like that. But when I have longer term calls or puts that are closer in the money where they're not moving up or down 10, 15, 20% in a matter of seconds, depending on what the stock does, it's a little easier to do stops and limits and things like that. But when you have weekly positions that the stock goes up 1% and your put positions down 35%, uh, and nothing's changed, right? You still want to have a hedge on, and you still think that, especially in the case with Visa, as a bear flag playing out, at some point it's going to pull. I hold those positions. And when I had the Visa puts last time, I actually added some spec puts the week before. Those expired, and then the following week, and then I added more, and then the following week is when the Department of Justice came out with their investigation, and the rest is history. And the puts went up, what was it, 1,000, 1,500%. So, not saying we're going to have deja vu here, but that just kind of, I've seen many, many times where if I went to have closed a position to see something happens the next day and I was right just early, right? So I'm not saying I'm right, but I still want to have a hedge into CPI data tomorrow. So unfortunately, MasterCard and Visa have rallied today. MasterCard had another price target upgrade today, so that's not helping. It's near all-time highs. Visa is actually off its highs, still setting up, but again, I'm just going to hold those, and obviously they've taken it on the chin. But if we do have some weakness tomorrow or even Friday with earnings, certainly Visa is another name I might look for some hedges into the following week. All right, so that's that. Some other names. So Clear Secure, back-to-back strong sessions, up another 3% today. I still have some calls into next week, which need some serious TLC, but still like this one. I think once it gets to 34, it's off to 36 and beyond. So don't be surprised if I add some strikes there. I've been talking about for a while. VKTX is up to its old shenanigans or same old tricks. Seems every time it wants to break out. No news, no catalyst for the sell-off today. Actually, it was positive data this morning. You would think it would be up at least in the green. And instead, it reversed course from the open, down nearly, was it 5% right now? So again, same old, over 70. I think it squeezes. Once it breaks 75, I'll add more strikes there. Now, same with Turn here, unfortunately, down another 1%. Just a bleed. It's like there's no buyers left on Turn for some reason. I still don't get it, but I think at some point it's an opportunity. So I'll continue to look for spots on Turn, but I'll wait for the, I guess the other shoot. I want to make sure I'm not going to catch a falling knife if there's further to go. I don't think there's further to go, but again, I didn't think it would break under its its offering price of 1049. That's Turn. Redfin, nothing more to update here. It's at its 50-day moving average, actually in the green today. Second day in a row. Hopefully it holds green here. If it does, maybe it's a constructive bottom. And then BIDU and WYNN. So, China could rally overnight 3, 4, 5%, and we could have another gap. China can also sell off tonight, and we could have another gap to the downside. I still, and I know there's a lot of folks who kind of, when the first word of the stimulus came out and China markets started to rally, there's a lot of folks out there on FinTwit and even some of the financial headlines talking about, here we go again with China. It's going to be just a quick rally in reverse. Maybe it is. I think this is a little different this time, and especially with where names like Baba and Baidu have gone. I mean, Baba, you take any valuation that you can come with Baba, it's they have a tremendous buyback. Just where it trades, just if it was a U.S. company or however just transplanted it here with the same fundamentals and just change the name to Amazon and instead use their metrics, it would be trading a heck of a lot higher. So, that's a bad analogy, but that's just how not that I'm going out to buy Baba. It's just there's a lot of folks who don't like the China story, so it tends to be a name that's volatile and shorted. But I think there's opportunity for upside. So I'll continue to look for spots. I still have those Baidu strikes. Who knows? But if there is an overnight rally in China, Baidu's back over 110. The calls will come back to life. Same with, WYNN's in the green here today. So I think Las Vegas Sands was downgraded this morning, and then the WYNN CEO was on CNBC, which I don't watch, talking about UAE, United Arab Emirates island that they're in the middle of construction, and then they had the presentation yesterday. You start looking at the call volume. I was looking at strikes before, and all of a sudden, December 140s. Let's see, there's 19,000 calls on WYNN today, and I'm trying to see. There was huge strikes going through. Was it December? I don't know if it was December 140s. Let's see here. Who knows? These are spread. So because the 115s and the 120s have 2,000, and the 140s have 2,000 calls traded. So that might be some kind of condor. It doesn't show spread. It just shows bought at the ask, but I'll have to do more research. But I'm not going to add anything yet on WYNN. Maybe another day to confirm that it's set to move to the upside again. I mean, it is upside today, but uh, don't want to, wait to see what happens with China overnight before I dip in some more strikes. But I may look to get some Novembers, maybe 120, 125s, because I think it goes over 115. So if it gets to 115 in a matter of a week or two, the 120s or 125s for November will be at least a couple 100% to the upside. That's it. I'm trying to think of some of the other names here. Roku. Crazy to see Carvana, such a divisive name. Roblox, right? Is that how you say Roblox? RBLX. I like not Spruce Point, Hindenburg Research, right? But it's like he's done this before. He did his short piece on EQIX, right? The REIT for servers, right? For uh, whatever they do. But that was the big Jim Chanos or whatever. It seems like sometimes they have this big, I hate to use the phrase circle jerk, but these shorts all get together and say, Jim Chanos, whatever his name is, probably went to Hindenburg Research and say, hey, take a look at EQIX, because they were all short that REIT. And then all of a sudden he comes out with the same kind of regurgitated concerns around some of the filings and some shadiness with some of their accounting, which the SEC had already talked to them. They already got fined one time. So he did that once, and then yesterday he comes out with a short piece on Roblox, kind of regurgitating some of the other bear cases that have been put out on Roblox. That it's a haven for pedophiles and for unruly behavior and school shootings and things like that. And I hate that stuff, right? So I mean, for me, it's good that that's brought to attention, so it could be addressed. Supposedly, Roblox says they addressed it, and what have you. But you can make that bear argument on Meta and all these other platforms. There's always shady stuff in all these platforms. If you spend time, to do research, I'm sure they could do that same thing on Meta or X or whatever. But there you see Roblox is just reversing, rallying. It's up nearly 3% here today. So, not saying I'm going to get the calls. I just sometimes you probably should find some fresh meat. Is that the word? Uh, anyway, I think that's it. WW just took a dip, but it's probably going to be. I mean, it's up 32% now. It was up 50% before. So I'll wait and see on that one. And I think that's it, folks. Have a great afternoon. I'll be back on audio later tomorrow. Rock and roll.